Everyone, Steve Tiber with 8 Days of Hope.
This is Stedman Harrison with Global Outreach International.
And we're glad that you are taking the time to watch this video on how you could possibly serve alongside 8 Days of Hope by partnering with Global Outreach. So we're really excited. Just recently we had our national expansion announcement in Tupelo, Mississippi. You and I did a presentation, and it was a lot of fun. In the end, we asked, how many of you would be interested in taking the next step? I'm thinking 6, 8, 10 hands, and then
half the room, it seemed like, showed up with an interest. And that room was a little bit larger than we were anticipating. I even thought it was going to be about 20, 30 people there. We had a room, I don't know, how many people do you think were there?
Yeah, there was a couple hundred there, at least for that part of the day. So it was an amazing day. And so today, our goals over the next 10, 12 minutes is to communicate to you on how you can take the next step if you feel like God is calling you to serve full time with 8 Days of Hope. And so we have a history. Yeah. We're in the headquarters for Global right here in Pontotoc, Mississippi. Why don't you tell a little bit about Global, and we can talk a little bit about how we first met you guys.
Yeah, so Global Outreach International has been around for 47 years. We were started here in Tupelo and Pontotoc. It's a great mission family around the world. So now 47 countries, some 270 plus missionaries around the world. But going back a few years ago, we did not have U.S.-based missions. Our conversations were part of catalyzing this idea that we believe that the mission front has actually come to our back door. And we actually started a piece of this partnership because we wanted to actually reach into the United States. But you guys had known us before I knew that you would come into the scene.
So this building that we're staying in, years ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago when it was built, 8 Days of Hope was trying a one-off project here in Tupelo, and we thought we'd do something for the community. And someone said, hey, that missionary organization called Global Outreach, they're building a building. And so I met with some of the leaders of Global, and we said, well, what if we put up your drywall and maybe insulated the building and just bless your organization, because you guys bless so many. And so my office is in a room that was drywalled by 8 Days Old volunteers 6, 7 years ago. So thank you, guys did a great job. Yeah. So that's how we kind of came and to know each other.
You came back and you even helped us with an expansion. So blessings to 8 Days of Hope. Friends who came to Pontotoc to actually help us even create the studio that we're in right now. So it's an ongoing partnership. It's building momentum.
So we want to take the next step. So 8 Days of Hope in January of 2017 decided to go from an all-volunteer organization that would have been for 11 and a half years to a staff-led organization. So I left the corporate world. Chris Childs had moved here from Virginia to lead Rapid Response. Terry and Dana Pickens, they're helping out as well. The three families joined up with Global back in January for many reasons. We'll talk about member care in a minute, but it's been an amazing 10 months. Never saw some of the things that have happened, but man, God's in control.
He is indeed. We will talk a little bit more about member care, but people ask me, how do you define Global Outreach? We used to say we were a sending agency, so other sending agencies that are out there, mission agencies. We're really coming along as a mission support agency. And so when we think of the relationship that we have to 8 Days of Hope, the goal is that we come alongside to support the missionaries, the people that are actually out there in the field doing all kinds of wonderful work, full-time laborers, part-time laborers, whatever God's calling you to. We want to come along and be able to be there to make a number of things go smoothly. You've had some experience with that. So what are some of the key things that maybe have been a help to you and the families that have been a part of Global Outreach?
So I think one of the things, being the provider for many years and taking pride in that, hopefully not with a capital P, I always wonder about the financial aspects of joining an organization. I mean, because we raise some of our own support, as do the other 8 Days of Hope families. And so, how does that work? How do you write a letter? Who do you ask? How often do you ask? How long should the letter be? So those are the things. What about health care? Well, 8 Days of Hope, we don't offer health care because we don't have any employees. And so how do we have health care? Well, we have health care options with Global. What about 401k? Well, a missionary have 401k? Absolutely. And so, partnering with Global there as well. So many different ways Global supports Charmaine and I and the other leaders of 8 Days of Hope to do what God's called us to do. I think the part that gets kind of overlooked is there's an adjustment when you leave what you've done for 30 years or 5 years and you do this. And one of the things I think Global does a great job, you're sensitive that my wife and I, this has been a challenge. It hasn't been always easy. There's things that happen in life, and the member care that Global provides is outstanding.
I mean, we both came from corporate world. We both stepped out of full-time jobs there's a security that God provided through that. When we step into ministry, I will say that there's a lot of things that get shaken up. We want to keep an eye on healthy marriages, making sure that people really do minister to their families first and foremost. So we want to come alongside and be a member care to you. I know that even finances can sometimes be a burden. And so when it comes to taking care of receipts, staying on top of all the details that have to do with the year-end taxes, we actually lean into that as well. In essence, we want to be really great stewards of the gifts that God has given us. And God's given us systems gifts, so all kinds of things that we have here in the home office that we can make use of and scale up, and also all kinds of counsel gifts, pastoral gifts. And we want to lean into the lives of 8 Days of Hope team members to make sure that you're healthy and vibrant as you're an ambassador for Jesus out on the field.
What I like is we don't have to recreate the wheel. I mean, God's gifted us to help people, with feeding, with our shower trailers, with a rebuilding ministry, rapid response ministry, a new distribution ministry. That's what we do. That's what we're gifted at, and we're geared that way. Global really complements what God has called us to do, and they've relieved a lot of the pressure. So I don't have to worry about it because you've navigated this with 250 people. What's 251? So we're
although
excited.
it might be 250
more.
with you guys, the way you're moving, the pace you're moving.
It's moving pretty quick. So you're probably wondering, what's the next step? And so the next step is pretty simple. You're going to watch this video, of course. We'll go through a couple Q's and A's here in a minute. But you can request an application from 8 Days of Hope. Just email us at info@8daysofhope.com, and I'll send you an application along with this video so you can show it to your spouse, your family, or other loved ones. After you return the application, we'll spend some time reviewing it. And at that point, one of two things happen. I probably going to call you back to ask some questions, or we might have a couple of us team up and call you back. At some point, you're either going to get a green light that this is, just perfect timing for everyone involved. At that point, you'll have an application to fill out with Global Outreach.
And if you want to get ahead on that curve, by all means, take a look at globaloutreach.org. You'll see how to engage in missions, and you'll see things like career mission, which is really full-time employment. You'll see short-term missions highlighted. So there's all kinds of ways that are less than career mission oriented in terms of a 40-hour work week that you can be engaged in and work with 8 Days of Hope and our organization as well. So let's keep that in mind. Sure.
So if everything goes forward, you fill out the 8 Days of Hope application, the global application, you and your spouse, your family are fully on board taking the next step. At that point, there would be a training session. Right now, either in January or February, we're still looking at the dates. When you finish that training, which I think is going to be roughly 3 days.
That's what we're expecting,
We're talking about. At that point, you'd be ready, commissioned to go into the mission field. 8 Days of Hope is thinking, where we landed is 140 days of service per calendar year. So it's a little bit more than a third of the year. It allows some people to spend time with their grandkids, hang out at their vacation house, or be bivocational. I talked to a contractor this morning. He loves what 8 Days of Hope is doing. He wants to be a part of it. Him and his wife are sold out, but he has a successful contractor business. So he's going to do that, 6-7 months a year, hire someone to lead the other 3-4 months, and then serve full-time with 8 Days of Hope. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this.
I just love to make the point that Global Outreach is looking for ways to reduce the boundaries. Take the mountains and bring them down, fill in the valleys, and make a way forward for you to be on mission for Jesus Christ. So we have people who retire into this kind of work. We have people who, again, bivocational work, bring along the job because they're actually on mission right in the town and the city where they've been called. And then they get to go to places like Houston where you guys have been mobilized recently.
Sure. So one of the common questions we were asked last weekend during the announcement was, how many dollars, when I raise money, how many of those dollars come out for Global to make their ends meet, because they have a very wide-ranging staff here offering a lot of support. And what I always like answering that because it's a good answer, nothing. So if my dad sends a $25 donation every month, he gets a tax-deductible receipt at the end of the year. He feels good that he's pouring in to the tithers making ends meet as we're in full-time ministry. And it's all kept track of. And after you develop a salary, you tap into those dollars that you raise. And so every dollar you raise goes to your family. Now, my home church, First Baptist Church in Tupelo, they're my sending church. What's the advantage and the responsibility of a sending church?
Sure. So just highlighting what Steve said, it's 100% pass-through. That's a very unique proposition. There's only a few organizations here in the United States that offer that. Most mission agencies, it's like 20% off of every dollar ends up going to support the home office. We raise our support and do a lot of things creatively here at Global Outreach International to take that burden off. But we do ask for a particular relationship to the home church, and that's a global partnership. Our global partners are all of these churches across the United States that are actually the sending agency. So I distinguish that. We're the member support agency. The church is still an integral part of sending you out. And we want you to have that relationship, and we want to have a relationship to them. One piece of that is a financial contribution. It's $200 a month that we ask for from that home church in order to help offset the costs of all the things that we're pouring into our missionaries out in the field.
So my church supports Charmaine and I, and they send $200 a month to Global, and that's their gift to the tithers to allow us to do what God's called us to do. Again, what I like is every dollar that God blesses us through the dollars we've raised ends up supporting Steve and Charmaine and our 5 kids. And you can't be any simpler or cleaner than that. I've talked recently with people who are semi-retired, fully retired, and are looking to raise some dollars to offset their expenses, pulling an RV or sleeping in a hotel because they don't want to sleep in a big gym, passionate about 8 Days of Hope, but just looking for ways to raise 10, 12, 15, 20 grand a year, and yet know that their church is not only financially supporting them, but also praying for them, which is such a big part of this as well.
That's the reason we call it global partnership. It really is a partnership. We want the church to be vested. The first call that we would make if there was ever a shakeup, a challenge in your life, and we were asking, how can we best support you? It's going to be to your pastor. It's going to be the person who's poured in love and life into your life for a long season.
So this has been an amazing experience for us the last 10 months. Stedman, we are excited to in essence found our home. I mean, what we announced last week is we're building a 60,000 square foot national headquarters right here, right next door. You can hit it with a rock, not yet because it's not built, and don't throw any rocks at it,
That's
but
right.
It's going to be right next door. And so this partnership isn't just a flash in the pan. I mean, we're really believe, both of our boards believe this is a God-ordained moment.
Absolutely. And we're excited about it. We're praying for you even as you watch this video. Those next steps are important. The application that's going to be coming, something to take seriously. Think about that testimony, that call. What is it that God is asking you to do in obedience to his command, but specifically in relationship to what Christ is already doing in your life?
So our goal is to have the application ready for you by December 1st. Again, email info@8dayshope.com. Really, I love what Stedman said. Be prayed up. This is not a simple, easy, quick, impulsive decision. Man, make sure that all your loved ones. Before I did this, Stedman, I reached out to 7 men, some of my ex-pastors, my current pastors, some board members, people that I know and trust, and I was waiting to hear their wisdom. And I learned a lot from talking to them. Talk to other people that know you. Ask them, do you really feel that I'm ready to become a full-time missionary? And if you hear yes, 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 and yes, man, don't walk, run. Fill out that application. Let's take the first step, and let's see what God does.
Yes, and we'll run with you. We're looking forward to those next steps.
December 1st, the application will be ready. Thank you so much for watching this. Share with us with your friends. And regardless if you move forward this route, be on the watch for 8 Days of Hope. We can't wait for 2018. We'll be going back to Houston multiple times. We're building this national headquarters, which will also serve as a training facility, a feeding ministry, so much more. Go to our website, 8daysofhope.com. Stedman, you did great.
Hey, man. God bless you guys. GlobalOutreach.org. Stay in touch.
God bless you.